A few months ago, I found myself agreeing to go with my friend Jack to a house party during our first year of high school. Despite not being invited, Jack managed to get me an invitation, and I decided to join him since I couldn't drive. When we arrived late at night, Jack suggested I leave my phone in the car, claiming it could get lost or stolen. Although puzzled, I complied, and we headed into the backyard where the party was happening. The scene was wild, with people smoking, drinking, and perhaps even doing drugs in small groups. Jack urged me to mingle, and after a few hours, I realized I'd had too much to drink as my vision became blurry. Feeling unsteady, I leaned against a wall and checked my watch, noting that it was either midnight or 1 in the morning. Knowing it was time to leave, I attempted to find Jack. Despite my exhaustion, I searched the yard but couldn't locate him. When I asked around, no one had seen him either. Frustrated, I decided to call him, but then I remembered my phone was still in Jack's car. Cursing myself, I felt a wave of panic wash over me, realizing I was stranded without a way to contact him. It vanished along with him. I realized my only option to get home was to walk, as I recalled my house wasn't too far from where I was. However, the night was cold due to the fall season. I considered asking someone else for a ride, but I didn't know anyone who could help. So, I stuck to my plan of walking home alone in the dark. I reached the road and started stumbling along the street, feeling lightheaded and dizzy from having too much to drink. After a few minutes, I arrived at the main street and kept walking. My thoughts wandered lazily to various things, like why Jack had left me alone at the party, and why I had foolishly listened to his suggestion to leave my phone in his car, making it impossible to call him or anyone else. I cursed myself for being so reckless with my drinking and getting drunk, knowing I shouldn't have. Feeling tired, I stopped walking and crossed my arms tightly over my chest to keep warm. I then remembered I could try hitchhiking, so I held out my arm and stuck out my thumb, hoping someone would stop for me. I watched as a couple of cars passed by without stopping. As more minutes ticked by, I started feeling uneasy, thinking I would have to start walking again. It was past 1 in the morning, and a few cars drove by, but none of them stopped. Either they didn't notice me, or they didn't care. I hesitated, considering walking home again, but in my drunken state, it felt too daunting. Just as I was about to give up, a large truck pulled up and stopped in front of me. Smiling, I stumbled towards the vehicle. The window rolled down, and an older man with a beard asked if I needed a ride. I gratefully accepted and told him where my house was before getting into the truck. As we started driving, the man tried to make small talk, asking what had happened to me. However, I was too disoriented to have a proper conversation, only managing to mumble incoherently murmurs and groans. As we turned the corner onto my street, away from the party, an uneasy feeling crept over me. Something about the man seemed off. Suddenly, we drove past my house. I told him we had just passed it, but my gut was screaming at me to get out. However, I was too drunk to move. I was about to ask him to let me out before we got too far when he turned to me, his face twisted into a sinister grin. "You know, you shouldn't be hitchhiking while drunk. It makes you an easy target," he said, smirking darkly. He reached over and started rubbing my leg, and I knew whatever he had in mind wasn't good. Just as I began to panic, we both heard a loud siren and saw flashing red and blue lights behind the car. It was the police. Relief washed over me. The man panicked and stopped the car, unlocking the doors in his haste. I seized the opportunity and jumped out, running as fast as I could. A police officer rushed over to me, and I told him everything that had happened. Unfortunately, nothing explicitly illegal had occurred at that point. The officer informed me that they were looking for someone in a large truck who had stolen something from a store. Whether it was the same man who picked me up or someone else, I was just grateful the police had intervened. The officer gave me a ride home, and from that moment on, I vowed never to get so drunk that I couldn't think straight. I learned the importance of being responsible and staying aware of my surroundings, even while trying to have a good time.